I'm just going to jump right in and say it. I am no longer a full-time Pilates instructor. I know this is maybe a shocker to some people, but it's great news. This is really good news, and I've been meaning to sit down and give you guys a life update. So that's what this video is going to be. I'm going to talk you through the experience and what it's been like being full-time as a Pilates instructor for a full year, and then what opportunity has come onto my plate that I've decided to pursue that is taking some of my time, not all of my time, but some of my time back from teaching. So in order to really understand the full story, we need to go back to the beginning of 2024, where I announced on this channel, you can go back and watch the video, that I had been laid off from my corporate job. Prior to being laid off, I had really settled into this role as what I describe as a multi-hyphenate. Like, I loved doing Pilates, I loved doing content, I loved my full-time career as a marketer, and I always planned to juggle all three. That was always my plan. But you know what they say? When man plans, God laughs, or when woman plans, God laughs. And that's what happened. I never anticipated getting laid off, but I did take getting laid off as an opportunity of like, hey, I have two other sources of income that I am equally passionate about and that I love. What would happen if I just took the time that I had from a corporate job and poured that into my content creation as well as being a Pilates instructor? And I really wanted to say to myself, like, I'm going to try to teach as many classes, because I still consider myself a pretty green instructor. Like, I've been teaching for some time. I've been teaching fitness for several years, but there's so much I wanted to grow and learn. So I was like, I'm going to teach as many classes as I can. I'm really going to pour into being an instructor. And I didn't say it in the video, but my plan was to do it for 6 months. My plan was always short term. And it was like, I'm going to try this out, and then I'm going to like find another job, and I'm going to move on. Well, 6 months turned into a year unexpectedly. And it wasn't a year because I couldn't find another job. It was a year because I was really able to make a living for myself and make back the money that I was making from corporate in content creation and teaching Pilates. And I loved it. Like, that year, I feel like I grew more. Mind you, I'm 35. I grew more in that 1 year than I feel like I have in the last decade plus. Just, I learned so much about myself. I pushed myself in ways that I never thought. I did what was uncomfortable. As someone who really is resistant to change, I knew this would be hard, but that year just taught me so much. And I am so incredibly proud of what I was able to build, establishing my brand, launching my website, getting virtual clients. Like, I was just able to grow so much in that year. So you're probably wondering, like, if you were able to grow so much and you learn so much, why pivot? Why change? Like I mentioned, like, my plan was never to leave corporate fully. To be honest, I missed working in marketing. I missed the career that I had worked really hard to build. And I do think this year was so valuable, not just in the way that I was able to grow as an instructor and a content creator and build my brand, but also prior to being laid off, I had an unhealthy relationship with my career. I put a lot of value in my career, a lot of my own value. I placed my value on having the cool job and like really being the best employee and getting all these reviews. And I just put a lot of pressure on myself. And I truly believe that layoff was a sign from God. And I know people always say this, like, you're always going to end up better. But I truly believe that layoff needed to happen to me because I needed that break from corporate to really pursue my passions and find my value outside of a job. I needed to find what really gets me going, what gets me excited, where my passions lie, where my values lie, what's most important to me, how I want to make people around me feel versus whether or not I'm getting promoted, whether or not I'm getting a raise. And I needed that. And I didn't realize that I needed that. And I will forever be grateful for the layoff that happened to me. So if you're going through a layoff, if you've experienced a layoff, so many people said this to me and I was like, no way, like, this sucks. I don't have healthcare. Like, I'm scared. I'm nervous. But if you're in a position where you can find a avenue of growth, I would highly encourage you to take it. Obviously, make smart financial choices, but go after it, because I just feel like that year was what I needed. But to be honest, I did miss my marketing career. Like, I've worked 15 years in marketing. And like I said, I place a lot of value in my work. So I did really work my way up to have senior positions at top tech companies. And I did miss working with other people and just like that part of my brain. I just kind of felt like there was like an itch that wasn't being scratched in a certain part of my brain. Now I do get a lot of marketing through content creation and through like making these videos, and I am able to be creative, but there was something about working specifically in product marketing for like tech companies and like getting these really challenging things that I need to solve with a marketing campaign or a marketing strategy and like digging into data, there was a part of me that still missed that and yearned for it. So I stayed open. I didn't apply to jobs through this time because, like I said, things were going well. So like I didn't really have a plan to exit, but I was approached for a full-time opportunity that I honestly couldn't turn down not because of the money, but because it was so perfect for what I wanted to do. It was not only a tech company, but a tech company that really values creativity and has a different approach to tech than some of the other tech companies that I've worked for in the past. So they approached me for an opportunity when I wasn't really looking. And I was like, I'll just take the interview and see where it goes. I really love the team and the people. And I decided to accept the role. I am now back working full time. It's actually been several months. Sorry for keeping this from you guys. I kind of did that the first go round when I announced my layoff, but I really needed to settle into it and prove to myself that I could return to being a multi-hyphenate. I still could give you guys really great content. I could give you guys free workout videos, daily TikTok videos, engaging with my community in the same way. I just needed to prove that I could still do that in juggling a full-time job before I shared like, hey guys, like I'm actually doing all of these things. So that's what I've been up to. My life has been a bit crazy at times, but I do really feel very fulfilled in all aspects now. And honestly, not much has changed in terms of like what I am balancing. Like I am still teaching. So when I was teaching full time, and I use air quotes because I've talked about this in the past, but full time as a Pilates instructor typically isn't 40 hours because like it's a lot on your body. I was teaching around 20 to 25 hours a week. I now teach between 8 to 10-ish. So I'm still teaching a decent amount. Like I'm still working that muscle and like becoming a better instructor and like always striving to challenge myself. And I'm still taking workshops and I'm still growing and learning, but I'm just teaching less. Because another thing that I realized during that time, during that year, was that I have passions for Pilates outside of teaching as well. Like I have a renewed sense of vision for what I want Move with Mojo to be, which in case you haven't tapped in, I did launch my brand and my website during that time. That was great to be able to focus on that. So Mojo Moves, Move with Mojo, Pilates.com is where you can tap in and see like my brand and everything that I've been building. But I realized I don't just want to stop at teaching. Like my Pilates vision and what I want to build isn't today opening a studio, though I do get asked all the time. That is not on my vision, but I do have other areas that I became passionate about during that year as I was really like digging into like, where are the voids in the Pilates space? How can I use my talents for good? How can I use my marketing skills for good? How can I help other instructors build their brands and things like that? So that year was also a time for me to realize that there are passions for me outside of just teaching Pilates. And I will always teach Pilates as long as my body is able and willing to. But I do want to do other things in the Pilates space. And I think this made me realize that this is a great chance to be my own angel investor is what someone described it to me as. Like when you have a full-time job and you still have these passions and you still have these side quests and these things that you want to explore, having a full-time job while doing that is a beautiful thing. If you can juggle it, it allows me to pour more money into my business and not move from a place of scarcity. Like I was never uncomfortable in the last year. Like I am very happy with the way that I was able to provide for myself. Like I didn't have to move out of my apartment or anything like that. But I did find myself like really taking a lot of classes on because I was like, I gotta make sure my bills are paid. I gotta give myself some level of consistency because the content thing with income, it's like up and down. So I did find that I was never taking brand deals that I wouldn't do. That was never gonna, but I was taking on more Pilates wise. And now I'm from a place where like teaching is more of a like, can do it for fun. I can go a whole week without teaching if I really need a break, if I'm burned out, and I can use the income that I make from my full-time job to pour into my business in other ways, and I don't need to teach. It also, what I'm really excited about with this next era, this next chapter, is I'm now able to do a lot more things for free. That was my whole reason why I wanted to be a Pilates instructor, especially as a Black woman in a space that's not very diverse. I wanted to give people access to Pilates, access to coaching, access to mentoring that maybe wouldn't be able to, doing free pop-ups and free classes. And that's just something I couldn't do when it was my livelihood as freely. So that's something else that I'm really excited about, is just like having that income to pour into my business and to support you guys, because that's really what I came into this doing. So yeah, my plan was never really to go full throttle and just like be a full-time Pilates instructor forever. But this year allowed me to grow so much. It gave me a renewed sense of vision. It helped me clarify what I wanted to do and like my dreams for my own business, even outside of just teaching. So it was a great year. No complaints. But I will say I did really struggle with the decision, although I did miss marketing and like it was a great opportunity. I struggled with the decision because part of me felt like I had just hit my mojo, pun intended. I had just like really started to hit my stride and I had a good routine and I was like loving being an entrepreneur and the freedom and like there were some great things. There were definitely pros and cons to both, but I was like really loving the space that I was in. And like I said, I wasn't applying for jobs. So it wasn't like I'm sick of this. I need money. Like I need to apply for jobs. It just kind of happened. But I struggled with taking some of that time away to go back to working full time. And I talked to my dad about it. And this goes back to the point that I was just talking about. My dad is a serial entrepreneur. He's always had side quests. He's always had like a full-time thing, but he's always had his hand in a million things. And he was really my guidance and like my person that I went to when I was like struggling with like, is this what I should be doing kind of things? And I was like, Dad, I just feel like I'm giving up on my dreams. Like I feel like, am I going to start to cry? I was like, I feel like I'm giving up on my dream. Like, I feel like I'm really hitting a point where I have everything I want. I have the freedom. I have the financial stability. I'm building clients. And he said, Morgan, because he doesn't call me Mojo, obviously. He calls me my government name. He said, the best dreams are well-funded dreams. And he's so right. He is so right. It's so important that like, yes, you can dream and you can want to be this entrepreneur, but the best thing you can do for yourself in the early stage is be able to really pour and invest into that vision the way that you want to. And if you're able to juggle them, which I've proven I can, because that's how this whole thing started. I was doing content, I was doing Pilates, I was doing a full-time job when I started posting on this account a long time ago, or on my TikTok account a long time ago. So there's no reason why I can't do it now, So that is really how I landed in this position, which I'm very excited about. I'm very happy about. I feel great about. I feel great about my full-time job. I feel great about Pilates. I feel great about teaching. I feel great about content. So I needed to fill you guys in because I owed you guys that update. And I think that's pretty much it. At times, does it get crazy? Yes. Absolutely. I said this before, even before I was doing it full time. When you're a multi-hyphenate, like I would consider myself, juggling 3 things, you're never going to be perfect at all three things at the same time. There are going to be ebbs and flows for each of those things. So like for the last year and all of 2024, my 2 things were like teaching and content. Obviously, like career and career progression was on hold. There was like nothing going on there. Now, my full-time job is taking a lot more of a priority. Content is remaining the same priority, and I'm just not teaching as much, and I'm just not putting as much into teaching as I was able to a few months ago. But that doesn't mean that my passion for those areas changes. And who knows, there may be another era, maybe another situation career-wise where I want to take a pivot, or something else where like maybe I want to take a break from teaching. I don't foresee that, but like maybe, you never know. But when you're somebody who's juggling a few things, it's important that you give yourself the flexibility to know that you are not going to be perfect at everything. You can't. If you were doing 3 things, basically, it's the situation I'm in, it's like working 3 jobs. One of them is going to be your full-time job. One of them is going to be your main, and the other things are going to be your sides. So one of them is going to be your entree. The other things are going to be your sides. Some of them are smaller sides, like some of them are bigger sides. So it's just important to give yourself grace to have some of that flexibility, to know that you can't be perfect at all things at all times, or else you're going to burn yourself out. But you can still do them, and you can still do them to the best of your ability. You just need to understand where your priorities are. And it's okay to take pivots and make shifts, and that's definitely what I have done in the last year. But yeah, that's it. That is my life update. I'm happy to answer any questions if people have it in the comments. But like I said, like nothing is changing in terms of like I'm still teaching. I still love Pilates. I'm still creating content. I just have a little less time for teaching than I did before. And I'm really focused on growing my career in a new direction, in a slightly different industry than I was most recently working in, and doing great work there. And that's something that makes me feel fulfilled and happy. And at the end of the day, that is what is most important. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys, my little life update. But don't worry, you're not going to lose me on this channel. You're not going to lose me on TikTok. You're not going to lose me in teaching classes in person. It just looks a little different today.